Leni Riefenstahl, Hitler's favorite director. For some, a film pioneer. For others, an unrepentant Nazi serving a murderous regime. She used the resources of the Nazi state, including using concentration camp prisoners as extras, to make groundbreaking films that inspired modern music videos, sports coverage, and 1,000 perfume commercials. In this edition of Arts Unveiled, you'll learn who Leni Riefenstahl was, how she changed filmmaking, and the dark past she tried to keep secret. Leni Riefenstahl remains one of the most controversial artists in film history.
She is the Nazi filmmaker. She is a maker of Hitler.
The
Americans say it was she and Orson Welles who transformed cinema.
She is stubborn, blind, self-justified, an egomaniac, a narcissist.
Her legend was, I'm apolitical, I'm just an artist, and I was seduced by Hitler.
She never apologized. She said, why should I apologize?
I feel that she is a kind of a rotten character, talented but rotten.
Rotten or not, Leni Riefenstahl had an extraordinary life. Born 1902, in the 1920s she became a dancer, then a film star, then a director. She gained fame for mountain movies, popular alpine action romances. She did her own death-defying stunts. She also directed, a female filmmaker in a man's world. Hitler and Nazi propaganda minister Joseph Goebbels were fans. Hitler called Riefenstahl the embodiment of German womanhood. They became friends, and Hitler hired her to direct documentaries glorifying the Nazi regime, including Triumph of the Will on the 1934 Nazi Party Congress in Nuremberg, and the sports documentary Olympia on the Berlin Olympics of 1936. Riefenstahl used groundbreaking camera and editing techniques to transform reality. The results were epic. Long after World War II, Riefenstahl was rediscovered, her style copied in advertising, in music videos, and even in Star Wars. Many called her a pioneer, a genius. In America, Hollywood stars Madonna and Jodie Foster wanted to play Leni Riefenstahl in movie biopics of her life, which were never made. Riefenstahl lived to be 101, dying in 2003. She tried to put her Nazi past behind her, shooting photos on the Nubia tribe in Sudan, and making a documentary on life underwater. A new German documentary, with access to Riefenstahl's private archive, uncovers dark secrets about her past. It is sold to more than 30 countries and reignited the Riefenstahl debate. Was she a naive artist or a lifelong Nazi? Documentarian Ray Muller knew Leni Riefenstahl personally. He made 2 films with her. He says meeting Hitler's favorite filmmaker felt odd.
I thought I shook the hand that shook Hitler's. That felt a bit strange.
She
She was very nice at the beginning, and then as the work continued, it became increasingly difficult because she reacted neurotically to political questions about her and her past.
Der Kamera werde ich Ihnen das sagen, da mache ich überhaupt nicht mehr mit. Das geht nicht.
The trickiest subject, says Muller, was Leni Riefenstahl's connection to Adolf Hitler. He thinks Riefenstahl and the Führer had a few things in common.
These were two with huge egos who admired each other. She had the artistic talent, he was a failed artist. And he had the power to help her realize her talents.
Hitler hired Riefenstahl to document the 1934 Nazi Party Congress in Nuremberg, an event designed to show Nazi control over Germany. Riefenstahl didn't make a newsreel. She filmed Triumph of the Will like a cinematic epic, with Hitler as the hero.
The fact of Hitler arriving in Nuremberg becomes the fictional presence of God from the clouds. This rather unassuming man, not terribly, matinee idol stuff, becomes this inordinate rock star.
The rally was staged like a military parade crossed with a rock concert. Riefenstahl cut between wide shots of the rally, close-ups of Hitler, and the faces from the mesmerized crowd, giving the documentary the rhythm and emotional pull of a movie drama.
She had an incredible eye for images, for the aesthetics of images and their impact. But I believe her greatest talent was editing. I believe that because she was a dancer at the beginning. She had an incredibly good sense of rhythm and connection with images.
Film historian Rainer Röthe is no fan of Riefenstahl, but he says Triumph of the Will changed documentaries forever.
She turned this event into a cinematic experience. She created something that had not existed in this way before. Using documentary material to portray an event and heighten its message and effect for a cinema audience.
Röthe's book, The Seduction of Genius, shows how, in Triumph of the Will, Riefenstahl's talent served a darker end.
It is a propaganda film for the German population to now please fall in line or else. And it's pretty much a kind of preview of coming attractions, if you will, of how the Nazi dictatorship is going to be. So from that perspective, it's terrifying.
Vor uns liegt Deutschland!
Terrifying but effective. Triumph of the Will has been called the most successful propaganda film in history. And there was more to come. Riefenstahl's next movie would bring the Nazis' message to the world and transform how sports were shot. After the success of Triumph of the Will, Riefenstahl was given a huge budget, $20 million in today's money, to film the Berlin Olympics of 1936. She used the money to pay for cameras, lots of cameras. She put them everywhere to capture athletes from new angles. Cameras up high on platforms, cameras down low in pits, mobile cameras to capture the athletes in motion. With such resources, she could show sports as it had never been seen before.
Her Olympia film, I think, is seen as very much a breakthrough because it takes what had been otherwise a rather static way of recording athletic events and grants them motility, gives them a kind of dramatic thrust, does that with, strange camera angles.
She did so many things for the first time. She was the first to take a camera underwater, into a pool, so one could film how the diver submerges and resurfaces. You first have to come up with all that.
Riefenstahl's techniques were revolutionary. Her style of editing unlike anything seen before in sports coverage. She used close-ups and slow motion to increase dramatic tension. She turned the Olympics into a cinematic event, less a sporting competition and more an ecstatic ode to form, motion, and physical perfection. The techniques Riefenstahl invented are still used in TV sports coverage today. But Olympia was not art for art's sake. This was art for the Nazi state, designed to show German superiority to the rest of the world.
It's a kind of gigantic advertising tool worldwide of Germany. It is a dictatorial state announcing the kind of regime of terror they're going to establish, and then for that same state promoting its benign nature to the international community. It's about power, it's about control, and that's what it's all about.
Riefenstahl added one other element to her depiction of authoritarian power: sex.
There is a message beyond athletic performance, and that is one in which the athletes are sexualized as attractive.
And sex sells. So when World War II became a distant memory, Riefenstahl's sexy, athletic aesthetic was co-opted by pop culture. Even if you've never heard the name Leni Riefenstahl, you've seen her copycats. This perfume commercial from the 1990s was directly inspired by Riefenstahl's Olympia. High-end fashion ads still use Riefenstahl's techniques. Her dramatic lighting, her editing style, and her aesthetic sense. This time using surface perfection to sell products instead of ideology. By the 1980s, Riefenstahl had become pop culture. Roxy Music quoted Olympia on one of its album covers. George Lucas deliberately borrowed from Triumph of the Will for the closing scene of Star Wars. German heavy metal band Rammstein went further, copying Riefenstahl's style for their stage shows, and even using footage from Olympia in a music video. This is Leni Riefenstahl's aesthetic, stripped of any cultural or historical context.
There is a way in which people are drawing on the Riefenstahl archive in a very, very big way, and doing it, let us say, in a kind of postmodern, anything goes manner, that this is cool, this is interesting, and why bother thinking about the historical baggage that comes with this?
Riefenstahl never managed to throw off the historical baggage of her Nazi past. The question always remained, was she just an artist who wanted to make films, or a true fascist believer? We've come to the Venice Film Festival. This is where Triumph of the Will and Olympia first premiered, back when Mussolini was still in charge. Both won gold medals. We're here to meet the first German filmmakers who got access to Leni Riefenstahl's personal archive. Andres Feil and Sandra Maischberger spent the last 3 years combing through the Riefenstahl estate. The 700 boxes of photos, outtakes, letters, and recorded phone calls given to the Prussian Cultural Heritage Foundation after her death. Maischberger is one of Germany's top television journalists and news anchors. She interviewed Riefenstahl back in 2002, but she didn't get the answers she was looking for.
I wanted to know how much she was politically intrigued with the Nazi Party and the ideology, and she denied all of it, and I could feel that this was not true. But I wasn't able to go behind the facade, so this is one of my motivations to go deep into the estate, because I hope to find answers there.
She teamed up with Feil, an award-winning documentary filmmaker, to find out what really lies behind the Riefenstahl legend.
Her legend was, I'm apolitical, I'm just an artist, and I was seduced by Hitler.
Despite her close friendship with Hitler and with Joseph Goebbels, Leni Riefenstahl was never a member of the Nazi Party. She claimed she was naive, only interested in her art, and ignorant of the Nazis' murderous ideology. Riefenstahl's personal archives revealed a darker truth. Buried deep in the Leni Riefenstahl estate was evidence she had a role in a Nazi massacre. It was the start of the Second World War. Riefenstahl was filming Hitler's march into Poland. She was preparing a scene and asked the soldiers to remove the Jews from her shot. They decided she meant kill those Jews.
She gave directions, Jews out of the frame, and after she gave these directions, somebody started to shoot at them. So I don't think she intended the massacre. She was shocked about what happened, but she was a catalyst.
Riefenstahl first denied she even witnessed the massacre.
Sie hatte 22 Juden erschossen gesehen.
Nein, ist alles nicht wahr. Ich habe keine Scheußlichkeiten überhaupt gesehen.
In her feature film Tiefland, shot during World War II, Riefenstahl used prisoners from a Nazi concentration camp as extras. She later lied, claiming all the extras survived the war. In fact, most are known or believed to have been gassed at Auschwitz.
I think the bigger the guilt was, the more she had to deny it, to repress it, to say, I was not even a witness.
She crafted her own truth. That means she always believed she was telling the truth, even when it wasn't the truth. Psychologists often say that when you have a trauma, you bend the truth so that you can live with it.
After the war, Riefenstahl traveled to Sudan to photograph the rituals of the Nuba tribe. She tried to leave her Nazi past behind. For some, this work refutes the claim she remained a fascist filmmaker forever.
I'm just saying that later, as a blonde German woman, she lived for months with a very remote black tribe. Would a committed Nazi or fascist do that?
In the 1970s, Riefenstahl went on German TV and denied she'd known anything about the Holocaust.
Es ist ja viel schwerer zu sagen, wenn Sie es nicht gewusst haben. Ich habe es nicht gewusst, weil man Ihnen nicht glaubt. Wir haben doch gewusst, was wir machen.
Hundreds of viewers called in to defend Riefenstahl.
Ich kann diesen Schwein nicht unterkriegen. Am Schluss wird die Gerechtigkeit siegen. Ihre ganze Haltung hat uns sehr, sehr imponiert.
I lost confidence in my fellow German neighbors, you know? How could so many of the viewers, fall for the lies?
In the post-war Germany, she remained a fascist, even in the 60s, 70s, and 80s.
The question is, can we separate Leni Riefenstahl's art from her politics? The late American art critic Susan Sontag saw a link between Riefenstahl's Nazi films and her later work, including her photos of the Nuba. All of it, she says, embodies the same fascist aesthetic that celebrates physical beauty and a submission to a collective ideal.
It's a celebration of strength. It's a celebration of healthy heroism. And at the same time, you have the dark side of it. And in the connection regarding fascist aesthetic, it's the contempt of the weak, the contempt of the sick people, even the contempt of people who are close to death. It's a storytelling of supremacy. And that's part of fascism. I am better than anybody else by birth.
Her films and photos might be beautiful, but there's a real danger in being seduced by this fascist aesthetic.
The naive notion that something, if it's aesthetically successful, is also good in a moral sense, is one we must, I believe, let go of. one has to take a closer look.
Auch da muss man genauer hingucken.
Today, as in Riefenstahl's time, this aesthetic is being used as a weapon by the far right. Filmmakers aren't the only ones who learn from Leni Riefenstahl. When Russia or China staged the Olympics, they used the playbook she created with Triumph and Olympia, organizing a mass spectacle of bodies moving in unison, all for the glory of the authoritarian state.
It's an expression for the individual doesn't count. It's just the body of the people, the mass, that counts. So that's another fascistic point that I would say that both pictures share and which are still visible today.
Just take a look at U.S. party conventions. It's pretty easy to see echoes of Triumph of the Will.
Triumph of the Will shows us a party congress in a way that makes of the event a grand spectacle. And so that entertainment and a political event somehow become one and the same. This is arresting to the eye.
I think party convention films were never the same after that, in that they blur the line between fiction and reality.
Andres Feil also sees echoes of Riefenstahl in the political messages coming from the far right today, who share her celebration of the strong and the powerful over the weak and the sick.
You have it in the US, for example. You have it when Trump says the immigrants are spoiling our American blood. There's a renaissance of this aesthetic. When you think about the right-wing populist movements all over, from the United States to Russia to Hungary to Italy, it's a renaissance of it. And so the film is a chance to look deeper into the dismantling the ideology, dismantling the aesthetics, and why it has a renaissance at the moment.
What story should we tell of Leni Riefenstahl? The story of Hitler's favorite director, who made the Nazis look like Nazis in The Triumph of the Will, designing a propaganda playbook for future dictators?
She is the Nazi filmmaker. She is probably the most important representative of Nazi art. With the Third Reich always lingering so strongly in people's minds, she stands out. She is fascist aesthetics incarnate.
Or should we tell the story of Riefenstahl, female filmmaking pioneer?
She was the only woman in this male universe. Imagine a 29-year-old woman who was simultaneously producer, director, and lead actress in a film. That was actually a huge sensation. If she hadn't had this unfortunate political shadow, she would have been an icon of feminism.
Maybe the real story of Riefenstahl is Riefenstahl the liar and manipulator, the woman who carefully crafted her public image and always knew how to perform for the cameras. When she was 88, Riefenstahl survived a helicopter crash in Sudan. Ray Muller pulled her from the wreckage.
Do you know the first thing she said to me? Did you film it correctly, how he pulled me out of the helicopter? That sums up her character quite well.
Perhaps the story of Leni Riefenstahl is best understood as a warning to artists everywhere that art is political, that power corrupts, and that empathy is all important.
There's so many Leni Riefenstahl maybe hidden in us. You know, the question, how would you react? What would you do given the chance to, have all these means and be seduced by the leading party? So I want the people to look at themselves and ask themselves, what is the right thing to do?
And when is the point to say no? Even if I get seduced, even if I get a lot of money, to say, okay, don't forget empathy. And this is something, Riefenstahl is a prototype of a lack of empathy. And I think when we lose empathy, we get seduced in the way she did, and of course it's a warning.
More than just a filmmaker, Leni Riefenstahl was a mirror, reflecting the complexities, contradictions, and moral dilemmas of her time and of ours as well. Her work serves as a stark reminder of how art can be wielded as a tool of power and propaganda. It continues to provoke uncomfortable questions about complicity, the responsibility of the artist to society, and the thin line between creative genius and moral failure. As far-right movements resurge globally, Riefenstahl's story remains disturbingly relevant.